Well, in this episode of IHTV, it needs a little bit more setup than the normal, hey, we're out here in the woods today. It was a pretty crazy day. January 11th, so we're in the late season, the Missouri archery hunting season. We just got hit with some freezing rain and a bunch of snow, and it was snowing to beat the band. And I was going down to hunt in the neighborhood, and there's another guy that hunts the property down there, an Army veteran named Jeremy, and he was going to meet me down there. Well, we couldn't get in where we normally get in because of the ice. It had froze the lock shut on the gate, so we went to the other access point that we have on the property and parked our trucks and got out. I grabbed my bow and headed to my stand, and Jeremy went to his ladder stand. I prefer to hunt out of lock-ons or my climber, and I get to my ladder or to my lock-on, and there we go. We're up. You know, I go to lock into the lifeline, and the prusik knot is frozen. Everything's coated in a sheet of ice. So I opted not to climb the tree just out of safety's sake because I couldn't tether in properly. So I unhooked, went back to the truck, which was only about 75 yards away because we're in the neighborhood, and I get I grabbed my crossbow and I text Jeremy and said, hey, I can't get in my tree. I'm going to go ride a brush pile or something. So I go and I sit in a brush pile, and that's where the story really begins. So it's snowing really hard, and you know, the freezing rain's done, but it's snowing pretty good. I'm sitting on the ground in this treetop. They've been logging the property, and there's this oak tree treetop sitting there, so I just kind of crawl in it, and I'm sitting there with my crossbow. And I waited for a little bit, and then I remember, hey, there's another ladder stand on the property that I can probably get into. So I text Jeremy and say, hey, I'm going to make a move. And I unzip my IWOM, get my feet out, roll over, come up to my knees, and get ready to stand up. And as I put my hands on the brush pile behind me, the log behind me I was leaning against, I look through and I see a doe laying there bedded down 20 yards from me. So I walked in on her. It was daylight when I came in. She's laying there. It's extremely cold. It's like 14 degrees out that day, and she never got up. So I just hunkered back down, texted Jeremy again, said I'm going to wait it out. There's a doe behind me, and about a half an hour later, she gets up and walks away and goes towards Jeremy's stand. So I texted Jeremy and said there's another deer coming your way, and to get ready because I'm going to try to make a move and sneak on this doe and see if I can get her. So I start heading that way. I didn't see exactly how far they went, if they went and laid back down, but anyway, I didn't see them anymore. And as I'm approaching the top of the hill, Jeremy texts me back and says, I just had 3 does come in. I've shot all of my arrows. And that's all the message said. So I was kind of confused on what had happened. So I said, did you hit anything? And he says, yeah, I think I hit 2 of them. And but he doesn't have any arrows. He said one of them is laid down about 50 yards from him, and the other one's standing under his tree bleeding. And so he's stuck in the tree, no arrows, no way to put him down. So I go up to try to help him. As I approach, that's where this video segment shows up. There's a doe standing 40, 50 yards from me, and I just walk in on her. And anyway, that's how that story starts. So thanks for tuning in to IHTV. All right, so here we are now. I've just shot this doe. It gets up and runs around that brush pile that you see in the video. Jeremy's stand is literally 50 to 60 yards down the hill in the direction that she ran. I can't see him yet. I know that he's got 2 hit deer and I've got 1 hit deer. But I don't know if the deer I hit was one of the ones that he hit. So here we are, we're trying to figure out what's going on. As I approach, I crest the hill, I can see him sitting in his stand. I see a deer to the right about 50 yards trying to get up that can't get up. It's hit pretty bad. And I see a deer that's bedded at the base of his ladder. And then there's another deer that's standing there. So we're texting, literally, we're 50 yards apart, 60 yards apart, and we're texting each other back and forth. It's so cold, my phone keeps shutting off, so I stick it back in my coat and warm it back up, and trying to get a strategy together and figure out what's going on. Well, I learned that the deer that he shot to the right that's on the ground, he shot that deer twice. So that deer has 2 arrows in it, and I could tell it was hurt pretty bad. He said the deer that was laying on the ground ran up on him and laid down. So that was the deer that I shot. And I said, can you tell where it's hit? And he says, yeah, it's hit right around the heart area. I can see the bolt sticking out of her. So I knew that deer was a fatal hit as well. And then, so the third deer standing there, I said, what about that one? He goes, that's the one I shot. It's bleeding. I think I hit it in the lungs, but it's just standing here. And I said, well, okay. I had 2 bolts left with my crossbow. He had 0 arrows in his quiver. So I texted him and said, I'm going to go down and try to put the one that's standing under you down. The other 2 aren't going to go anywhere. So as I approached, that deer runs off, and I never get a shot. So I go over to his other deer, and what happens? It gets up and runs off. So I go back to my deer. It gets up and runs off, and it lays back down about 60 yards away. And so Jeremy finally comes down out of his tree stand. I'm standing there with him. I said, let's go get a cup of coffee. How's it going? Out here in the neighborhood, as you can see, it's pretty snowy out today. And we've got, Jeremy was out here hunting this morning. He hit a couple of does. And I was coming up to help him, and I walked up on one, as you can see. And so they're out there. We're going to go track them down now. This is my 5.0 wide Tacticam, first intro on it, and we'll see how it does. But so Jeremy shot all of his arrows so he couldn't put the deer down, and it got up and ran off. So we're gonna see what we can do here. I grab my bow and I head back into the woods, and I find his first deer with the 2 arrows in it, and it's still alive. And this is like an hour later. It's still alive, but it's near expired. So I just leave it, and I go look for mine. And I know where it laid down. It laid down right in the open. I went back to that same spot, and it was gone. And then I saw it. The snow was snowing so hard that it was covering up blood trail, but I was able to pick out a little bit of specks of blood in the snow. It had gone down into the ditch and crawled into a ravine, and it was still breathing as well. And I can see the arrow in it. It's right where it's supposed to be, and I can't believe that this deer is still alive. But I know it's not going anywhere now. So the first 2 deer I know were accounted for, so I texted him. Told him I got 2 of them accounted for. They're going to be ready to go when he gets back. And then so I continued on up the ditch the direction that other deer went, and I jumped it up at about 25 yards, and it came and went across the ditch and up the hill, and so that's where we are now. So this doe that Jeremy shot once was hit low, but it clipped lung. So it was going to die. I texted Jeremy and says, hey, I've got this deer located. I'm on it. I'm going to stay on it until you get back. If I can get an arrow in it and put it down, I'm going to for you. And so that deer took 2 more arrows before it finally laid down and died. Here comes Jeremy. All right, there's that doe I shot laying right down in that little ravine there. And he's got one down over there, and then there's one up the hill there that we had to chase down. Huh?
I might have to take turns on her.
Yeah, she's a little bigger. All deer recovered, all deer butchered, all deer in the freezer now. But thanks for tuning into IHTV, and we hope that you like what you see. We hope that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, and follow us on Twitter. It's been a great year so far, and we've got a few more days left in the season.